morning and welcome to the chat on Newsday Amarillo and News Channel 10-2. I'm David Lovejoy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rhonda Lawnert.
And I'm still Chuckalicious Chuck Williams.
Love and Money. It's not the latest reality series, hip-hop, or a new housewife show. It's the reality of the world. It's shocking when you get into the numbers of how finances and romance tie in. A recent survey shows that like 45% of relationships hit a stumbling block when we come to this subject of money and love. And that's the basis of most arguments. Today, we're joined by Meredith Stoddard. She's with Fidelity to talk about how couples can come together and discuss this issue and do it in a conductive way, because sometimes it doesn't end that way. Miss Meredith, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me on today.
Miss Stoddard, let me ask you this, if I may. What are some of the key issues that couples agree or disagree on when it comes to the money issues?
Yeah, great question. And as you mentioned, 45% of couples do argue about money. And so if you are one of them, you are not alone. It is not hopeless. That said, about a third don't agree on what their next big savings goal is, and a quarter say it is their biggest relationship issue. All hope is not lost. Communication can make a huge difference in making sure that you're aligned and not disaligned on these topics. We did find an interesting key area to start for those who are struggling is about 1 in 3 didn't know what their partner made. And so that could be an easy way to get that conversation going.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Well, you know, that you talked about this could be a stumbling block, but it doesn't have to be the chopping block, right? And you talked about communication, but I find that sometimes it's hard to get that conversation started. Maybe you don't know exactly what to ask, and you want to ask it in the appropriate way. Do you have tips and resources for how to start conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people struggle with, like, what words do I use, or they're afraid to bring it up. And so they just kind of kick that can down the road because it doesn't have to be done today. And so later just never comes if you don't prioritize it. We did put together a lot of resources on fidelity.com/couples, including checklists, language guides, a lot of different articles. And there are really 3 key themes to success. So we call them the 3 C's. So communication, making sure you set aside time regularly, whether that's monthly or quarterly or whatever cadence works for you, to come together and listen to each other. A lot of couples do delegate and kind of defer the whole thing to the other partner, and you want to make sure that you take the time to educate yourself. Collaboration, so your voice matters, your perspective matters, and together you can often come up with a better plan than one of you might on your own. And so make sure that you come together in the spirit of collaboration to come up with a plan. And then finally, confidence. So chipping away at those things you're afraid to bring up and getting good at it over time can really make a big difference, because then you build that confidence, you give yourself a sense of control, and you know you're working towards something together.
What are some of the top financial concerns that couples are facing?
Yeah, there were a lot of themes that came up. Not surprisingly, retirement was a big one. So should we prioritize it, saving now? How much do we save? When do we retire? What does that look like? Healthcare costs. There were also some ongoing concerns around lifestyle choices. How much emergency fund should we save? And among younger couples, we found that figuring out, how do I save for a house? Can we save enough to have and raise a child? The good news is that for those couples who learn how to communicate and build those skills, time can be on your side, especially for the younger couples. So it could be years or even decades before you hit some of these goals. And so make sure that you build that skill set early, and you can really make a big difference in terms of changing the trajectory you're on in a positive way.
You know, you made mention of something, and I guess it's priorities. Like, my priority is, where am I going to get my next bicycle? My wife doesn't feel that way. You know, it's hard to prioritize a thing, and how do you bring that through to the compromise?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody does it differently. In the example you gave, some people find it's a lot easier if you kind of have an ours and mine and yours bucket, and then give each other a little bit of autonomy within those parameters, so that I might not love every purchase that my partner makes, but you know what? It's his bucket, and so I'm going to let him be, and he does the same, and it kind of works well. For other people, it's one for all and all for one at all times, and if that works for you, absolutely go that direction. But again, it's about communication. You don't want to be catching people off guard by coming home with a new car and being like, wait a minute, we didn't talk about this. So making sure you come to a common agreement before you make some of those big mistakes.
I like that. It's your bucket.
Yeah.
Think about that for a moment. It's your bucket. Fidelity has put out this 2024 study on financial security and the survey of what couples are looking at financially. What's the biggest giveaway or takeaway we've gotten from this year's 2024 Couples and Money Study?
Yeah, don't let fear hold you back. Take action now, and whether it's small, you're not going to do it all at one shot. So make sure that you start to chip away at it early and often. Use diversity in your different experiences to your advantage, and have that conversation to make sure that you create a new normal, because what you think of as normal from growing up might not be the norm that you want to create as a couple and go forward. And so take that time, come together, communicate, and you'll be glad you did.
And the one thing Fidelity does a great thing of is providing resources to help couples strengthen that communication and dynamic. Where can we tune in to Fidelity's help on this?
Fidelity.com/couples.
All right, Miss Meredith Stoddard. I mispronounced your name at the beginning. I really apologize for that. She's the Vice President of Education and Education at Fidelity Investment. And that's the one thing, like I said, about Fidelity Investment. They look at the whole aspect and the whole gamut of financial future and investments, everything from the young child starting out or the young couple all the way into retirement and so on. You can find out more information by going to fidelityinvestments.com. Ms. Meredith, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for your time.